I don't know why that happened. Okay. All right. And maybe it'll work. Okay. Yeah, for some reason it said that you would be kicked out of the meeting when I pressed record, and then that you could rejoin, but then it went away. So I don't know. I've never seen that message before.
Well, it says recording now, so I think we should be all set.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so then we talked about like certifications, right? Like all these different certifications that you can earn in skilled trades, in the medical field, and in tech. And then we also talked about college, like the college process, like what does that look like, right? All those things. And so really to kind of wrap this up, I mean, not fully, but, you know, kind of like how do we move forward to pay for these kinds of programs, right? So what we'll find out too is like financial aid pays also for some certifications at like ACC, for example. So anyway, this is just kind of a good segue into kind of the other things that we've been doing, right? So I'm just going to kind of go in, I'm just going to kind of like define financial aid. So financial aid, when we talk about like financial aid applications, when you hear the words FAFSA or TASFA, that is money to help you pay for college or other training programs. And so there's different forms of financial aid that really are there to kind of support you. So that way college can be affordable, right? But that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about like financial aid. And I'm going to go right in to kind of define the two different applications that students can do. And so the first one is going to be called the FAFSA, and that stands for the federal application. And this is going to be for U.S. citizens. So FAFSA is for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, because that is federal financial aid. TASFA is state financial aid. And state financial aid is going to be available for Texas residents, those who might have DACA status, or those who may not have a social security number or a work permit, right? And so some of us might think, okay, cool. So like I'm a US citizen and I'm a Texas resident. So like, can I do both applications? And the answer to that is no. And so if you are a US citizen or a permanent resident, you will be doing the financial aid application from the federal government. So that's the FAFSA. But if you're just a Texas resident and you don't have that work permit yet, or say that you have DACA, you're going to be doing the Texas financial aid application. And so if this is something that applies to you, definitely request an appointment with me. I think the key here is that financial aid really is available to all students. Sometimes that can be a myth, right? And so this is a really good opportunity. Not all states have financial aid for DACA holders or those without a work permit. It's pretty cool that Texas has that. So if you are someone that qualifies for the TASFA, you'd want to make sure to get your application in as early as you can, because the money from the state is a little bit of a smaller pool of money than from the federal government. So if you have questions about this, yeah, I think someone does have a question. You're welcome to shout it out, put it in the chat, and you're also welcome to request an appointment with me as well.
I had a question.
Okay.
So she don't have the social security number. She wouldn't be able to do it, or?
So if she doesn't have, who's she?
Oh, it's my spouse, my wife.
Your wife. Right. So for students or for anyone that does not hold a social security number, right, they don't have that authorization to work in the United States, they are going to be doing a state financial aid application, which is the TASFA. So it doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means they're going to be doing a state financial aid application versus the FAFSA. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anybody else want to ask a question about this before I move on?
Me. So
Rosa?
I have my 3 children with DACA, and they got it, the TAFSA, the state financial is the answer to Jose Buendia to she can do it. Yeah, they got it.
Okay.
Yeah, Rosa, that's amazing. It is definitely possible. Yeah, like a lot of people don't realize that there is that financial aid available, you know,
Yeah.
the state aid.
It's a
So
lot of help. I never pay nothing for university for
Mhm.
3 of them. Yeah.
Mhm. Rosa, I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you, because
Yeah.
it's just a really
Yeah.
important thing to say. Like, hey, like actually, my kids use this. You know.
Yeah. So that's only that you need to the taxes. Yeah, the taxes to help you.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk more about some of the documents that are
Yeah.
required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have another question. I'm sorry.
No problem.
She used to go to school and she got like maybe 13, 14 credits. I don't know if that would matter or not, or
Well, it would matter in the sense of like when she is to enroll again, right? She wouldn't be starting from scratch. She would still hold those credits. But whether or not she has credits, I don't think would affect financial aid unless she was on some sort of probationary period or if they put a bar or something like that. I don't know the whole situation. So,
okay.
but if you want to ask more questions in regards to her, you can just give me a call or email me anytime.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. And yeah, share this in your community. You know, a lot of people don't realize that there is financial aid for everyone in Texas. And so please do share this out, because sometimes this can be a really great way, you know, while people are working on their citizenship, they can still go through education and training, right? And like for Rosa's, you know, and her experience, like her kids they have that DACA status, right? So after they go through college, they'll be able to get a job, you know, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to move on. We've got a lot to get through. So what I'm going to do, so a lot of you guys might know a lot of this already, okay? A lot of you may not. So we're just going to go through some common misconceptions, right? So some things that a lot of people think may be true. And we're just going to like look at that a little bit because I think that's a good place to start. Are you guys in a talkative mood today? Do you want to guess on these or do you want me to just go through it? Like, what's our mood? You guys want to? All right, we'll try the first one. See what happens. So, do you guys think this is true or false? Only students with good grades get financial aid. Is that true or false?
False.
Rosa thinks it's false. Who else? Mota, yes. Raising a hand.
False.
Jose thinks it's false. And Ashley thinks it's false. Awesome. Okay, so you guys are definitely right. So your GPA, right, all that stuff, it can help with like scholarships, but it's not going to matter when it comes to your financial aid application, right? So when you're in high school, they're not going to be looking at your grades to determine financial aid for you. And so this is really great for those of us who want a second start, right? Who want a second chance, because all the grades, all that stuff from high school, all of a sudden like doesn't matter anymore in college. And so it's such a cool thing, right? Like you can really start fresh at ACC. You have like a 0.0 GPA, right? So you really get to kind of like start over when it comes to college, which is really cool. And so, yeah, your grades are not going to be like, they're not going to matter in the sense of how much money you get from these financial aid applications. Okay, do y'all think this one's true or false? I don't have good credit, so I will not be eligible for financial aid. Is that true or false? Did I stump you guys?
That's the same, no? The same is for grades.
So you think it's false?
Yes.
False?
Yeah, false.
False.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one. Yeah, false, Maria. Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely false, right? So like a lot of people can be afraid to do a financial aid application because they're like, whoa, I'm putting in like all my information. Like, you know, what if like my credit card company is notified that I'm getting grants or something like that? Like, no, it's a completely different, separate institution. So FAFSA or TASFA is never taking into account your credit report. They're never checking your credit report. And it's a completely separate entity from any other kind of credit loans or anything like that. So that's pretty cool. Like you could still be receiving grants, and it's not going to matter if you owe your credit card company, for example. So it's just kind of something to keep in mind and to not be fearful, right, when you're going into these applications that your information is not shared with anybody else. And so that goes for both the FAFSA and the TASFA, right? So like, it's not like you're going to do that application and they're going to notify anybody else. It's really a private matter. Okay, how about this? Number 3, my age makes me ineligible for federal or state student aid. True or false?
False.
I think it's false. False.
Anybody else want to take a guess? Okay. So yeah, age. Yeah. So there are eligibility requirements, but age, ethnicity, and demographic information is not considered ever. So that's really, really cool. Like you can literally do the financial aid application at any age, and it's not going to matter, right? We will see though that when you're under the age of 24, you will be required to use your parents' tax information unless you have a few qualifying factors. So that's going to be a whole slide, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But I think this is pretty cool too, because like, again, you know, you can really start from scratch at any time, right? So it's pretty awesome. Number 4, my parents are not US citizens, so there's no way I'm going to get financial aid. Do you guys think this is true or false?
False.
Rosa thinks it's false. Anybody else want to guess? Not true. Yeah. Yeah, so the truth is that your parents' citizenship status is absolutely not a factor. So for example, like if you are a US citizen, but your parents are not, that does not mean that you do not qualify for FAFSA. You absolutely do, because you indeed are a US citizen. Now, what will trip people up is that if they have to enter in their parents' information, all you have to do is enter in all zeros. Sometimes the FAFSA will give you trouble and you'll have to enter in zeros and like do that a few times, but that's it. And so, yeah, this is definitely something I always like to tell everybody. And again, share this out, because I think if you do the application and you don't know this, you'll get stumped when they ask for that. And all you got to do is put it in zeros. Number 5, if I apply for FAFSA or TASFA, I will have student debt. Is that true or false?
False.
False. Thanks, Rosa. And Rosa is right. It is definitely false. And so this is like a big thing that I see with Excel students. Like when I talk about financial aid, they're like, wait, no, I don't want loans. And I'm like, wait, no, like this is the whole reason we're doing this, is so that way you can get free money, right? So the only reason the motivation to apply is to see if you're eligible for grants, okay? When you do the TASFA, you're always getting grants. You're never going to be offered loans with the TASFA, right? So that's pretty cool. For FAFSA though, they will offer you loans, but that does not mean you have to take them out, right? You say, no, thank you, I'm good. I'll take my free money, right? So anyway, this is a big one. Just by applying does not mean you're signing a loan paperwork or anything like that. So there's absolutely no harm in doing the application. It does not mean immediate debt. Okay, number 6, I can submit the FAFSA and TASFA at any time. Do you guys think that's true or false?
I think it's false because it has sometimes to, I think it's January and I don't remember the months, but I think it's before you're going to college that you decide to go.
Right. So this is why I was so excited to meet with you guys, because there is definitely a deadline. And this is where we get tripped up a lot. So what happens is if you don't know that you need to do this ahead of time, it can keep you from reaching your goals, right? So if you get to the end of the year and you're a senior and it's like May and your goal is to attend ACC and you have not done financial aid, there's a good chance you will not receive it because that money has been sent to everyone else who was first in line. So every year, the application opens up in October. And like Rosa said, you are doing this ahead of time. And in many cases, you're doing it almost a year ahead of time, right? So if the applications open in October, that's going to give you financial aid for the following school year, right? So right now, we are up against a deadline. So ACC's financial aid deadline is April 1st. And so if you will be graduating at the end of this year, which none of you will, because otherwise you'd be in a different advisory. But if you graduate like term 1 next year, right? Like if you can maybe use financial aid in the spring, right, for January, might be a good idea to do the application, right? I don't know everyone's situation right now in terms of credits and things like that. But if you know your graduation date is going to be in the fall of next year and you really want to attend ACC in the spring, you know, that's an option. I would say what's safe for you guys is to apply next year. And so when we come back in August, have it in your mind to like do financial aid in October. Get yourself first in line, right? Because when you're first in line, it's more likely you're going to get the full amount of grants. Get yourself in line, and that way you have options when you graduate. Even if you are like 30% sure you want to attend, still do the application, right? There's literally no harm in doing it and not using it. But if you don't do it, you're not putting yourself in line for that money. So I always recommend just do it if you can and give yourself those options because you never know how you're going to feel in 6 months, you know? So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Especially if you are filling out the TASFA, it's really important that you do that as early on as you can, just because, again, like it's a smaller pool of money. And so you're going to get it. It's just better to do it as soon as possible, even more so, I would say, with the TASFA. Okay, number 7, the FAFSA and TASFA is long and confusing, and so there's no way I can do that. Do y'all think that's true or false?
False.
Rosa knows, she's got experience.
I know.
So yeah, I do want to say that like when I was in college, I had a really hard time doing my FAFSA. I don't know why. I just felt like taxes and numbers and like all of it felt really hard.
It's a lot of stress.
Yeah, and it feels stressful because there's like this deadline and you have to do it and then you're like busy. And so yeah, but we're like really know that you will have support and it's really not that bad. When Obama was president, he made a huge effort to like simplify the FAFSA, and it's so much shorter than it used to be. The TASFA is like a little bit different. You do it sometimes on a paper. It's a paper application that you hand in as a packet many times. So it's a little bit different with that. But honestly, as long as you bring in all the right stuff, I can complete the FAFSA with you in like 30 minutes, which is pretty cool. So anyway, it's really not that bad. And you guys definitely do have support in this area. So please remember that. And I also want to note that like when you do financial aid, you can apply to multiple programs. And so like you can apply to like ACC and you can apply to like Peloton U. Do you guys know about Peloton U yet? No? So on my next presentation, I'm going to be talking all about like community programs, pretty sure. So Peloton U is so cool. And like maybe Mr. Stanley and Miss Mota and I can get together and have them come present for you guys by the end of the year, because they're just a college that does things really differently, and they don't go by the same rules as everyone else. And there's an incredible opportunity for students that want to attend college, but maybe don't fit in that mold. Like ACC can be really challenging in terms of like getting to every campus and like meeting all those attendance requirements. Peloton U works a little bit differently. It's more at your own pace. It's kind of like if the Excel Center were a college, it would be like Peloton U. And so you can actually work at your own pace and graduate early, which is pretty cool. I'll work on getting them to come talk to us if that's something y'all would like to learn more about. And also like when you do ACC, like you put that on there, like that also means that there are certain certification programs that are covered by this. I've seen like Aveda, they take FAFSA. A lot of people take FAFSA. A lot of people don't, you know, but when you're applying, you can apply to multiple programs at once, right? Some programs are going to even require that you actually do this, right? So Capital IDEA, for example, is one of them that will require you to complete this application. So anyway, that's just kind of something to keep in mind. And we kind of went over this already, so I'm going to skip over this, but like, you know, you're applying for financial aid a year ahead of time, right? And so you're also applying for a full school year. And in college, there's going to be 2 entry points. Fall in August, and then spring, which starts in January. Peloton U works differently. They start every 6 weeks. But so for example, if you did not want to attend in the fall, you could use your financial aid in the spring. So you're really giving yourself lots of options when you do this application. Does anybody have questions about that? I just want to make sure that's clear.
No.
Okay, cool. Okay, and then here is, hopefully you guys can memorize this, right? No, I mean, like, no, you don't have to memorize it. I just really want to note the difference, right? So loans are money that you have to pay back. And like, think about it, like if it's used in a sentence, like I am loaning you something, meaning that like, I'm expecting it to come back to me, right? Versus a grant, right? A grant is something that you do not have to pay back. So when you hear the word grant, think of it like I am granting you a gift. I am not expecting you to give me a gift back, right? Like a gift is something you give to someone. You're not asking for it in return. Like loans, you're borrowing money, right? So grants are very different. And so we're going to talk, when you look at financial aid, you're going to really see these 2 terms used. You're going to hear the term loan and you're going to hear the term grant, right? And the key is that we're really going for those grants. And so there's absolutely no reason why any student needs to take out loans at the associate's degree level at ACC. So for example, even if financial aid, if you're having trouble covering the cost at ACC, there's ways to make payment plans. There are scholarships. There's ways that we can work around it, right? So know that when we're as advisors at the Excel Center, none of us would ever advise you to take out loans, right? So what we're going to always do is we're going to see what kinds of grants, what kinds of scholarships, you know, what kind of community programs can help you fund these kinds of things. So when you work alongside us, that's going to really be our goal. I really wanted to just kind of put that out there because it's no one's goal to take out loans, and it's not typical for any Excel Center student to do that upon graduation. Save all those loans for like bachelor program or something. So scholarships are also not included in FAFSA, and so students will think, oh, like maybe I'll get a scholarship. Nope. Scholarships are completely different applications. So when people get scholarships, they put in a lot of work. So they're doing an application like a job, and they're writing an essay, and then they have recommendation letters. So scholarships are amazing, but they're a lot of work, you know. Are they worth it? Yes. And so there are some Excel scholarships that you can do, which are really cool. So anyway, you can talk to your life coach, talk to me about that if that's something you're interested in. I guess my cat has decided to join my presentation too, so, okay. Okay, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself a lot. You know what, guys? It's been a week. I have had the craziest allergies, like I think a lot of people have, like every tree is pollinating. So I have to take all these crazy medications just so I can like breathe. And man, it has been a few days of not so much fun. So anyway, sorry in advance. Should have said that in the beginning, but anyway. So yeah, definitely not gonna take out loans, blah, blah, blah. And I think the other thing is with this too, is that we really wanna leave some room for exploration. So like when we take out loans, like we're signing documents that like, we're gonna pay this back. Like when you're doing college your first year or two, you really don't wanna have that kind of risk. You know, you really wanna be there exploring and seeing if it's right for you. That's another reason why I say that, guys. You want to make sure you can leave room for other opportunities. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to skip over this. I think like, yeah, you can take loans out when you are studying in a program that you've been doing for some time, right? So like a lot of us will like, you know, go through community college debt-free pretty much because the grants we receive cover that cost of tuition. When you get into like higher level programs at like the bachelor's level, that's when loans become kind of necessary because the Pell Grant you get no longer covers that full cost of tuition, right? I don't think any of you guys are going to really be in that situation. What I would tell you though is that if you want to talk through this, once you get to that point, ask your advisor. You know, when you're at ACC or when you're at Peloton U, they're going to be able to give you good advice in this area. And I also want to note that like student loans are not like other kinds of loans. They offer fixed interest rates, forgiveness programs, and deferment. So it's really nothing like credit card debt at all. It also doesn't impact your credit score in the same way either. I'm not saying that you guys are going to take these loans out, but I think it's good to be educated about them, right? Because a lot of people don't really understand how student loans are actually different from other kinds of loans. So they don't impact you in the same exact way as it would, say, a credit card, you know? So anyway, anybody have questions about that? All right. And so how is this all determined? And so basically what FAFSA and TASFA do is they determine your eligibility for grants based off of your income. And so they use your tax information in order to do that. So they're always going to do it like a year, like they're going to always do it called prior year. So like we're going into the school year 2021-22. That will be next school year, right? So we're going to be using 2019 taxes. So like most of us have already done our taxes from 2019, right? So that's pretty cool. Like it used to be that you had to race to do your taxes just to do the financial aid application, but they've changed that. So for example, for many of you, since you're going to be a senior next year, you're going to want to hold on to your 2020 taxes because that's what you're going to be using for these applications next year. I also just want to make a quick, like kind of difference or kind of explain the difference between being an independent student and being a dependent student. And so it's your age that determines whether or not you need to use your parents' tax information, right? And so a lot of students are like, oh no, and I'm like, no, it's okay. I work with parents all the time. Like if you're like, in this age bracket, like I've done FAFSA with the student and the parent, and it's no big deal. I also want to note too that you can always appeal your financial aid. Like say if your 2020 taxes do not actually show how much money you make now, you can tell financial aid like, hey, like I lost my job, or hey, I got divorced, right? And that will change your eligibility as well. Here's an example of a tax return. So when people are talking about your tax return, they're going to say like 1040. So that's what that looks like as your tax return. So that's the document that you're going to need for your financial aid application. So hang on, let me look at my next slide because I want to talk about the difference between what you need as an independent student. 1 second. So I'll just explain it. I don't know where that slide went. Maybe I'd gone through it. So if you are under the age of 24, but you have children, you're married, or you were ever in the foster care system, you do not need to use your parents' tax information, okay? So that makes you an independent student when you are yourself a parent, or if you're married, or if you were ever in the foster care system / homeless. So that can qualify you to be an independent student. When I work with a lot of students at the Excel Center, most of the time they're over the age of 24. So we're not having to use your parents' tax information. So anyway, if you have questions about that, ask me at the end, and you'll also have my contact information as well. And I'm just going to talk briefly on the Pell Grant. I think this really helps students like understand just how affordable ACC can be and how cool Peloton U is as an option too. So the Pell Grant is only for FAFSA, unfortunately. So TASFA has different state grants, and I don't have a slide for that because those grants tend to change. So if you have specific questions on that, let me know and I can go over that. But for the majority of people, they're going to be doing the FAFSA, right? So the FAFSA is what we're doing is we're looking at the main grant that is awarded by the federal government, and that is the Pell Grant. And so right when you complete the FAFSA, I'd be able to tell you what your eligibility is towards this grant. And so the grant is worth about $6,345. And what we can see is that that covers the cost of tuition, like at ACC and some, right? So about a full year at ACC taking classes full time would be about $2,550, right? So you can see that like if you get a Pell Grant, you're not only going to be able to cover the cost of tuition at ACC, but you can buy yourself your books, or any other supplies that you need to be successful in school. That money could go to your living expenses. That could go to a new laptop. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can use that money to support you while you're in school. When you are eligible for the Pell Grant and you want to attend Peloton U, they cover the entire cost of tuition for you. So you're actually able to get a full-on bachelor's degree if you'd like, without having to take out any debt because they're using that Pell Grant as the full cost of tuition. So it's a really, really great opportunity. Like I really don't know of any other school that does that. So it's really cool. I'll definitely see if I can get them to come talk to y'all a little bit about their program. I also put Texas State Technical College on here because I was just trying to give you guys examples. Like, so tuition at that college is about $5,800. So even the Pell Grant would cover that, right? The Pell Grant goes pretty far, which is really, really cool. So in a lot of cases, ACC can actually, like, you can get paid to go to school versus you having to take out any loans. So there's a really cool way of doing this, you know, that is the educated way of doing it, in a way that really leads you to success, right? Without having to have a baggage of debt or anything like that. Now, the reason why it's really important to go into ACC with the mindset that you're going to attend every class, pass every class, is because you really have to make sure that you're going to meet what's called satisfactory academic progress. And so basically they're like, look, we can grant you money. We're going to give you free money, but we really want you to we want to make sure that you're going to get your degree, right? And so they're not expecting you to be perfect. They're just expecting you to pass 75% of the time. So for example, if you're taking 4 classes, they want you to pass at least 3 of them, right? And that's just the first year that you're enrolled. Typically, like, you really want to go to ACC or Peloton U if you're motivated to pass. And because you don't want to take this lightly. It's not like enrolling in the Excel Center and being absent, like, because you have a lot more to lose, right? Because this is money, right? Like that is being given to you. And they just want to make sure that you're going to be able to sustain the program. But it's really not that hard to meet. I don't know, when you first get to ACC, the goal is for you to pass. Like, you want to pass, your professor wants you to pass. It is a supportive environment. I think as long as you're like communicating with your professor, you really should be okay. But really make sure that you know why you're going into the program, and you don't, you are assessing like childcare, transportation, kind of like any of those barriers that would keep you from attending. You're thinking about that now, because you don't want that to happen while you're doing it. You'll see that like college, like, I think the key to success is really about attendance, like, more than anything. Like, it just being there every day is so important in college. So that's why we make it a big deal at the Excel Center too. Some more stuff about satisfactory academic progress. You know, mainly like, you just want to make sure that you're passing 75% of the time, and that you're not elongating the degree to take way longer than it should. So they want you to be, you know, taking these classes in a realistic period of time, basically, is what they're trying to say. I'll review this more. You know, you'll get a lot more of this information when you become a senior as well, and if this is something that you're interested in. So I know that not everybody's goal is college, right? But I still wanted you guys to kind of know how to apply. And it's also really important to note that even if you don't want to go to college and you want to maybe take a certification program, still doing financial aid is really important, because ACC is able to take this money for those certs. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, and like, you're not alone either. Like, if you're like, I don't even know like what I want to do, that's okay. I mean, it's hard to make the decision sometimes to go to college, but you don't have to decide all this today, and you don't have to decide all this alone. And so if you want to know a little bit more, you know, you're welcome to contact me. And also, I would recommend talking to your life coach and your teachers too, because they've been through this and they know what it's like. And I think like talking to multiple people about it is a good thing always, especially when it comes to career development and things like that. Yeah, and I'm just going to reiterate, like, there's absolutely no harm in applying and not attending. So I really highly recommend for every single person to apply next year when you are going to be a senior, just to give yourself that option, that opportunity. The pandemic has been a big challenge, like, on so many levels. But I really think that this is a good time to learn. I think that colleges are being pretty understanding in the fact of like, a lot of stuff is being offered virtually that never was before. And so it's a really good opportunity for especially like if you're an adult who has to work, like being able to take these college classes online, like, it's a really cool opportunity that really wasn't there. And I mean, it was there, but it just wasn't as like advanced as it is now. Like, I took online classes at ACC over the summer, for example. So I did that, like, I've had that experience, but the way that they do it now is a little bit different. But they have those options, you know what I mean? And they have night classes, like they have all kinds of flexibility. So it can really be like a good time to kind of be thinking about like what field you want to go into, things like that. Okay. I also wanted to make a plug for foundation communities. So like, especially like Rosa, for you that like you have you have children that are in college right now. Like if you ever needed to help them with a FAFSA or TASFA, you could always make an appointment at Foundation Communities. They do tax prep too. So you could like go get your taxes done and do financial aid. Like it's a one-stop shop. They also have something called a college hub program. And so they have like this really cool program where you can like get a lot of social support. And they even, I think, have like a what's called like a scholarship match, where like if you have $200, they'll match you. I don't know if that's still going on, but it's pretty cool. This is so cool. So this is their college hub right here. And so they're basically like, they have tons of college counselors that can help you if you don't know what you want to do, or if you need help doing financial aid. They help you with all of that. And it's so easy. Like I just go right here and I can just click on this and make an appointment. So like, this is an awesome opportunity, guys. I think, because they do so much stuff. So what do? Yeah, they do financial aid applications. They can help you with scholarship applications. They can help you do the application to enroll in school, which is huge. And they can help you also, you know, once you get financial aid, like understanding how to accept all of it. They really just do it all there. Of course, I'm here to help too, right? But this is just something good for y'all to know that's in your community. It's there for you. Just really recommend taking advantage of that. So we don't have any workshops for financial aid coming up, I don't believe. We've finished those. So if you're on this call and you like really want to do financial aid, let me know, and either I can help you do it or we can set you up with Foundation Communities. So guys, like, yeah, I think that's it. I really want to open it up for questions, and I have my contact information. And again, like, please do not hesitate to just text me, call me, email me if you have questions about some of this stuff, because I'm definitely here to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carolyn, for stopping by our advisory one more time. You know how much we like having you, and it's really great they haven't here. Like, I'm not kidding, guys. Most of the stuff that Carolyn goes through is stuff that I wish that I had known before starting college, instead of just being told, "Yep, you're going to college after high school, so get ready."
I know, right?
This is a ton of really great information, especially that Foundation Communities page has a ton of really great info and help on it for anybody around you that might be looking for some way to get back into their education as well.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that too. Like, a big part of this, guys, is educating like your community about this, because a lot of people don't access educational programs because they don't think they can, when they really, there's a lot of support for many different kinds of populations to go into these programs. So I'm glad you mentioned that. What else was I going to say? I forgot already. See, a hard day.
Oh, happens to me all the time.
Just like it was important. It'll come back to me.
Exactly. All right. So thank you so much for being here. As always, if you guys can't think of a question now, but think of one later, you can always reach out to Carolyn directly at her email or her phone number right there. Or if it's a couple days after this and you think of a question, but you don't remember to write down her information, please feel free to reach out to myself or Ms. Mota, and we can help put you in contact with her to help you with any sort of questions or any sort of help that you want with any sort of FAFSA, TASFA type stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah.
We are
and
here for you.
If you graduate at all in term 1 next year, term 2, I'd recommend going ahead and doing this application. You've got 5 days until the deadline. So please, if that's your situation, let me know. Also, you're not going to see me for a while. I was looking at the calendar. So like, I don't do presentations with y'all the last week of the term or the first week of the term. So I really won't see y'all for another 3 weeks. I'm going to try to get Peloton U to come join us. Also, I will be talking a lot about community programs next time. And this is really where the rubber meets the road, right? Because we've learned about certs, we've learned about college, but we're going to learn about like really cool programs in Austin that provide additional support. And they're really, really cool. So I'll make sure to I'll try to post in the stream, before that presentation, but please try to attend because I think that'll kind of really bring everything together. So.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. All righty. Well, thank you again, Carolyn, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. We really appreciate it, and we're really, really happy to see you all back. Have a good rest of your Thursday evening and a good weekend, and we will see you back for our next Tuesday advisory on Tuesday.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
problem,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Jose. Bye, Kirsten. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Bye, Mr. Stanley. See you tomorrow.
I just want to see you tomorrow.